Hey friend, listen, if you're stepping into a new year and you're feeling the pressure to figure everything out, this is your reminder and an invitation to pause. Before you set your goals, make your plans, decide what's next, what if you chose connection before direction? I created a free reflection guide called Connection Before Direction to help you slow down, reconnect to what matters, and notice what you may be carrying out of habit, not alignment. This isn't a planner or a reset or a resolution. It's a calm, intentional pause designed for high achieving women just like you who want 2026 to feel different, not just look different. You can download the free guide right now at martinewilliams.com/connect. That's martinewilliams.com/connect. Because clarity doesn't come from pushing harder, it comes from reconnecting first. Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I am your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Well, hey friends, and welcome back to Life Coaching for Mompreneurs. Happy New Year to you. If this is your first episode of the new year, I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Martine Williams, and I am your Chief Encouragement Officer. I'm also a life alignment coach, a speaker, and of course, the host of this podcast. So today, I want to talk about something that doesn't get talked about honestly enough. And it's the word failure. So as you move into the new year, I know you're super excited about the new year, and maybe you've set some New Year resolutions, or maybe you have your word of the year. And we talked about in a previous episode, a letting go is a letting in. And sometimes a letting go is a letting go of failures, letting go of the things that didn't work this year, right? In 2025 that you need to spend some time with. And so we're going to talk about failure today, and I hope that it will encourage you, because I want to talk about specifically what it feels like when you miss a goal, when you don't hit the number, when things don't turn out the way that you hoped that they would, because it happens to all of us. So let's just normalize it. And I want to start with a reframe that I've been carrying with me for many years. And it's this: failure isn't final. It's feedback. It's also an event, not a flaw in your character. So you either get the result that you want or the lesson that you need. These are the thoughts, I talk a lot about on this podcast, the thoughts that create our results. These are the thoughts that I have that carry me through goals that I don't hit. And there were definitely some that I didn't hit in 2025. I'm going to share some of that with you. So again, we can normalize that this is part of the process. But if you believe that failure isn't final and that it's feedback, if you believe that you either get the result that you want or the lesson that you need, it just softens the blow a little bit when you don't hit the mark. And if you're willing to look at it differently, there is gold. My coach calls it failure gold in the places where you miss the mark. And that's what I also want to talk about today. So why do missed goals hit so hard for us, especially as high achieving women? Because missing the goal can feel personal, right? We don't just miss the outcome. We start questioning ourselves. We make it personal. We think, I should have known better. I thought I would be further along. Why didn't this work? I must be XYZ, fill in the blank there. And missing the goal doesn't mean you failed as a person. It means you were willing to try. So could you think about it in that way? Could you think that I was courageous enough to try and it didn't work? Like, another thought that I say to myself is, I just figured out a way something didn't work. Like, that's it. Because everything we do, all the goals that you set for 2026, they're goals you're setting in theory, right? And then you start putting action behind it, and you're going to either prove that theory to be true, or you're going to prove that theory to not be true and make adjustments. And you just have to, especially if you are an entrepreneur listening to this podcast, which most of you are, or you own your own business, a small business, you must get your mind to that place where you don't see it as a personal reflection of who you are. You're not a failure. You just tried some things and they didn't work. It's an event, it's not a characteristic of who you are. Because success is never built by never missing. It's not. It's built by learning how to respond when you do. And a lot of us don't set goals at all because, and I see this in my coaching, and I want to name it honestly, but a lot of us avoid goals. We have goal aversion, not because you lack ambition, not because they lack ambition. They avoid goals because they're afraid of how they're going to treat themselves when they miss. I can relate to this, right? You're not afraid of the goal. I'm not afraid of the goal. I'm afraid of the inner dialogue that shows up when we don't hit it. I know someone listening can relate to this. You've learned that missing a goal leads to self-criticism, maybe shame, pressure, disappointment that you don't know how to hold, like you don't know how to hold the emotion of disappointment. So instead of risking that experience, you just stay vague, right? We say things like, I'll just see how the year goes, or I don't want to put pressure on myself, so I'm not going to set a goal, or I don't want to set myself up for disappointment, so I'm just going to be really vague about my goals. But what I want you to hear is that underneath that is often this belief: I don't trust myself to be kind if I miss. And that matters. How you treat yourself when you miss the mark is so important because it sets up what you're going to do next, right? If you have an underlying belief underneath that I don't trust myself to be kind to myself when I miss, why would you set yourself up for punishment and shame and self-criticism? You won't. Goals aren't dangerous. Harsh self-leadership is. If the cost of missing a goal is self-punishment, your nervous system will opt out every time. And maybe this is the thing for you for 2026 is to learn to reframe failure as feedback, not final. To learn how to hold the emotion of disappointment. Failure is feedback. This is why that reframe is so important for you. Feedback tells you what worked, what didn't work, what needs adjusting, where alignment is missing, where clarity is still forming. But feedback only helps if you're willing to look at it, if you're willing to evaluate. This is something that my coach has taught me over the last, I don't know, year and a half, like this evaluation process. And I take my clients through it too, because you have to be willing to look at it, right? But if your emotional capacity and resilience isn't there, you're probably going to skip it because you don't want to look at where you missed the mark. So you'll rush past it, or you'll avoid it altogether because you don't want to take yourself through that shame cycle or that judging cycle. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Brian Tracy, but he is like the goal guy. He teaches something that I've always appreciated. He says that most people don't actually fail because they aim too high. They struggle because they never get clear. He talks about how simply writing your goals down gives the brain direction, not certainty, but it does give it direction. And writing a goal doesn't guarantee the result either. It guarantees the engagement. It guarantees you taking action. It guarantees you being committed. And sometimes that's another reason why we don't set goals, is because we have commitment issues, right? We don't want to commit. Again, I think it all goes back to how we treat ourselves when we've missed the goal. So writing a goal doesn't guarantee the result. It guarantees engagement, and engagement is where the learning happens. So I want you to think about you're standing in front of a dartboard and you're getting ready to throw a dart. And a lot of us are standing there, dart in hand, trying to line it up just perfectly. We overthink, we analyze it, we hesitate. We're just trying to get it straight on the bullseye because we don't want to miss, right? But here's the truth. You don't get better by standing there, right? You get better by throwing the dart. And even if you miss, you know where the dart is on the board. Now you have data. You can see how far off you were, how far off I am, which direction did I miss. But if we never throw the dart, we don't get feedback. And so many of us and so many of the women that I coach that come into coaching are stalled, not because they're incapable, but because they're waiting for like the perfect plan, like the perfect proof that this action is gonna work before they take the action. And y'all, this is still something I'm growing through, and I have to catch myself. And so it's not that you're never going to go through this process of overthinking or analyzing, but you're going to start catching yourself sooner the more you're aware of it. So I get this, I have lived this, and I'm still learning and gathering my own data and feedback in this process. But action first, feedback is next, and adjustment after that. This is how you extract failure gold. And so I want to share this with you, just some personal examples of this. This year, you heard me share in a previous episode that I did grow my revenue from last year. So I beat last year's revenue. And I'm super grateful for that. I'm super proud of that because of the year that I've had. If you've been with me from the beginning, or not from the beginning, but this year, you know all the challenges that I have faced this year. And so I am super proud that I grew my revenue over last year. But at the same time, I missed the goal that I set. So both are true. I'm proud and I'm also a little disappointed. And instead of rushing past that or justifying it, I've asked myself, what is the feedback here? What is the lesson here? I'm constantly asking myself that for myself, but also for you, right? I want to show you and share with you the lessons that I'm learning in hopes that you may not have to go down the same road, right? To get that lesson. But what did this year teach me about alignment? What did it teach me about energy? I can tell you well, really alignment and energy both. What I learned in 2025 is that I really desire and want to have more in-person opportunities for me, for the women in my community. That feels really energetically aligned with me. I know when I'm in person speaking, I'm in person training, even just like Facebook Lives and things like that, where I'm actually in real time connecting with all of you, it gives me so much energy and it feels super in alignment with how I want my business to be. So it's not that I won't have an online business, I will, but that's something that this year taught me. I could have done the exact same things that I did this year, not creating any more new work, but doing it from a different energy, from being connected, which is my word for 2026. And I know it would have had different results. Quick pause. If you've been listening and you're ready to stop performing your life and start leading it, if you know you're ready to feel better now, not later, and you're ready for support that actually creates sustainable transformation, I have private one-on-one coaching spots open. And inside this coaching, in Illuminate You coaching, we don't guess. We use your unique personality blueprint built from the science-backed personality and performance tool called the ProScan, the one you've heard me talk about here in the podcast. This is used so that every decision, every boundary, every shift is designed specifically around your wiring, not someone else's. This is my aligned success method. It's not hacks. It's not try harder. It's not mindset glitter. It's a real solution. It's rooted in science, strategy, and your unique design. So you can lead your life as the woman you actually are, not the woman others expect you to be. Now is the time. Take the step. Book your clarity call at martinewilliams.com/clarity. All right, back to the episode. So those are the kind of questions that I'm asking myself. What did this year teach me? What are the lessons on capacity? Last year, my capacity grew to hold hard things. I went through some really hard things, not 2025, but 2023 and 2024. Retiring from 31 after 16 years, like being called out without knowing the plan, grew my capacity to hold the hard things of change. And it's so funny because I don't know if y'all do those. This is going to be a sidebar, but I promise I'll come back. If y'all do those things at the end of the year where they have like the word jumble and then like the first 4 words you see are your words for the year, I'm not kidding you. The last 4 years, the one word that has come up is change. And I just did something, it wasn't the exact same thing, but similar today. And that was like my word for the year was change. And I'm like, I've had enough change. I really have. I guess I could look at change in a different way to create a different emotion, but I'm like, I'm good. I'm good, God. Like, I don't need any more change in my life. Can I just float for a little bit? Do I need to keep getting this refining? Can I just get out of the fire and float for a little bit. So that was a sidebar. But anyway, this year I grew my capacity emotionally. I grew my capacity to be kind to myself in a challenge. So even though I was in a challenge in 2023 and 2024, 2025, it felt different. It felt like this was not something that I was learning to grow to be stronger in. It was growing my capacity to feel more, to be kind to myself when in the slowdown, be kind to myself in my pace. And so one of the questions you might ask is where my focus, like, what did you learn about where your focus really belongs? What did I learn about where my focus really belongs? Well, for half of the year, my focus really belonged with my family, right? And with my mother-in-law and with those that I know really, really needed me. And so what does that look like for 2026 is the connection. But where my focus really belongs, right? What did this year teach you about where your focus really belongs? Maybe something happened and it really got your attention about where your focus has been and it's been out of alignment. And one of the things that I decided years ago is that I will not miss a mark without a lesson. Like if I'm going to miss, I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to take some time to really think through what are like either what is the Lord teaching me through this hardness or this struggle, or what can I learn professionally from missing the mark here? What is the lesson? That lesson is gold, but you got to be willing to go there and slow down. It's kind of like stretching after a workout. Nobody wants to do it, stretching before and after a workout, but it is gold for your fitness, right? It really does expand your strength. It expands your flexibility, your mobility, so that the next workout can be even better. So I want you to think about you pausing to evaluate, you pausing to extract, fill your gold as setting you up. It's not a setback, it's a setup for what's next, but you have to choose intentionally to think about it that way. And that comes from the work that I do inside of my coaching, really helping my clients to look at their thoughts, knowing their thoughts create their results, really examining their thoughts and just getting honest with it. And then what are the emotions that that's bringing up? So one of my core concepts that I talk about in my coaching as well, and you've heard me say this on the podcast, is my action wheel. This is where that kind of comes into this equation. And I teach this because it's so important that action brings clarity, clarity builds confidence, and confidence creates more action. You don't get clarity before you move. You don't get clarity before you move. You get clarity because you moved. Even when the outcome isn't what you hoped for, especially then, the only way to know is to go. The only way to know is to go. You can sit here and you can think about it and overanalyze. And if you're going to overthink, I want you to overthink in a really positive way. But the only way you're going to know if your theory that you wrote down for how you want to achieve your goal is going to work is to go. The only way to know is to go. And in that process, we have to learn to hold disappointment with maturity. You have to be able to hold that disappointment because, again, failure is part of the process. It's part of success. It's not the opposite of success. You can be proud of yourself, as I said earlier, grateful for the progress, and still disappointed, right? Like when I went back and looked at what my essentials, my 3 essentials that I had set for each quarter, one of them was to create my group program, which I did, and I launched it twice. So I hit that goal, but I didn't hit my individual launch goals, right? So I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the progress, and I was still disappointed that I didn't hit the mark in each of those launches. But if I had never thrown the dart, if I had never started down that road, I wouldn't have emails that I already written. I wouldn't have figured out what worked and what didn't work. I wouldn't have any data to move forward into 2026 with, right? And one of the biggest things is like, I would love to take that group program and make it an in-person event because that is what feels good to me. And that is what gets me excited and what's fun for me to do in my business. So both can exist. Your disappointment is there, and you can also be proud at the same time. And when you allow disappointment, instead of bypassing it, you actually open the door to learning instead of shame. Because you're like, I feel disappointed. I see that. Again, what's the lesson here? That's emotional maturity. That's self-leadership. That's emotional safety. When you feel emotionally safe to feel disappointment, and that you're not going to go down when you feel that, or you're not going to beat yourself up in the process. You're just going to open the door, right, to wisdom. Shame blocks wisdom. So we don't want to step into the shame cycle, but you can hold disappointment that didn't hit the goal, and also the possibility of one idea implemented away from your breakthrough. So here's some practical questions to help you to extract that failure goal. If you missed a goal this year, I want you to ask yourself, what did this attempt teach me? What worked that I want to keep, right? Like, what are the things I'm really proud of, the things that I want to take with me? What didn't work that I can release? What adjustment does this feedback invite? What are the just tweaks and minor adjustments that I need to make, right? Throwing the dart, miss the bullseye. What are the little tweaks I need to make? Don't waste the miss. Be firm in 2026 of, if I'm going to miss the mark, I'm going to spend the time evaluating to extract that failure gold. And this will allow you to grow your emotional capacity and grow your emotional resilience, grow your emotional safety. And from that process, you're going to be more likely to set more goals, because you're not going to have goal aversion. You're not going to be worried about treating yourself poorly when you miss the mark, because your thought is, I'm either winning or I'm learning. That's the two things. I'm winning or I'm learning. So in closing, success isn't built by never missing. It's built by being willing to try, to fail, to reflect, to adjust, and then try again. Because remember, failure isn't final, it's feedback. So throw the dart, learn from where it lands, and adjust your aim. That's how confidence is built. That's how clarity is earned. And if this is resonating with you and you want some support in this process, like you want some support in building your emotional resilience and safety, and like, what does that really mean when you say managing your mind and managing your thoughts and having intentional thought creation? Like, how do I do that? These are things that I do in my coaching, in Illuminate You coaching. And the next step for that is very simple. You just book a clarity call. On this clarity call, we're going to talk about where you are right now. It could be related to this episode, or it could be completely not related to this episode, but where you are right now, where you want to go, and what's the plan, the simple, doable plan and process to get you there. Because the only reason you don't have what you want right now is because you don't have aligned behaviors. And so when you come into coaching, and honestly, even just from the clarity call, that 1 hour of you and I together is going to create so much clarity, not certainty, clarity, that you are going to take some action. And remember, action creates even more confidence, and confidence creates action. And then you're doing the action loop again. So coming onto this clarity call is going to allow you to see exactly where you are, the thoughts you're having, the mindsets that are blocking you, probably some behaviors that are not in alignment with who you are and where you want to go. That's the name of the game, is getting those things in alignment. Your power, which is your strengths, your priorities, what's most important to you now, and your plan. And we do all three of those things inside Illuminate You coaching. And the first step for that is your clarity call. So go to martinewilliams.com/clarity. You can go to the link in the show notes as well. And Happy New Year again. I can't wait to continue to share some of the new things that I'll be offering in 2026. Super excited about that. And I will catch you on our next episode. Until then, keep leading your life with intention. Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.